So we've got some brand new tips for you guys, and today I'm going to show you how you can reshape them and kind of some things that we weren't able to do with our original tips. We've got the clear and the natural, both the same shapes, the same sizes. They're both still the quarter well tips. So the only difference between them really is the colors. But let me show you how to actually shape them. All right, so I've got a few nails that I've actually adhered to our practice hand here, and I used the fiber gel to put these on. Now I've got one of our original tips, and you can see the big difference between the original and then the new ones that we just came out with. So if we were to come in and try to clip out and create that stiletto nail, again, you're gonna get kind of that bird beak look where it really kind of curves down and it doesn't come straight out from that natural nail. We want that lower arch to come straight out from that natural nail. So again, that's why I'm really loving these new tips, because again, they start by coming straight out from that natural nail originally, but now we can go ahead and customize this. So let's start with, say maybe you wanted to do a shorter kind of a nail, you wanted to do just a square nail, you can cut this down to whatever length you want. You guys, if you have a tip cutter, the tip cutters work great. If you got just a straight edge toenail clipper, that's gonna work great as well. So if you just wanna take maybe a quarter of that off, you can take that off, give that your shape. Basically, you're just gonna straighten that out from that free edge, okay? That's gonna give you that nice square shape, and that's gonna help to just still keep those sidewalls nice and straight out from that natural nail. So square nails, again, if you wanna go even shorter with that, these are gonna work great for really any length and any shape that your client is gonna wanna do. So again, as short as you wanna go, you can go short and square. Again, you can also kind of customize, taper in those sides a little bit if you need to make it just a little bit more tapered once you go a little shorter, but it is still gonna have that really nice tight C curve even when you go shorter like that. Okay, what if we want to do more of a coffin shape? I know it is already at a kind of a coffin shape, but you can come in and you can taper that just a little bit more. So if you want that really nice, tight, tapered coffin shape, I would just come in with the file. Now you could come in using your clippers to clip off those edges, but I would just use my file to kind of taper in that end just a little bit more. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of pressure right into that free edge. I'm not gonna work too much back into here because I'm just gonna kind of taper in that free edge just a little bit more. Now notice how I do kind of support from the opposite side. When you're working with long nails like this, long tips like this, you really wanna make sure that you're balancing, because if I was just gonna file, you can kind of see that as I'm putting pressure with my file, that nail is gonna kind of bend to the left. These tips are flexible. They don't have acrylic, they don't have gel on them or anything at this point. So if you're able to position your thumb or your other fingers, if you're working on this side, you can use your thumb. If you're working on the other side, use your fingers. That way you're gonna give that nail a little bit more support so that when you're filing and tapering, it's not gonna wobble back and forth. It's not going to be uncomfortable for your client, first of all, but also by putting that counter pressure, you're going to make sure that you get a nice straight edge. Okay, so put your counter pressure on there, and I'm just kind of filing, tapering in just a little bit more through here. And once I've got that tapered a little bit, then I'll kind of work backwards. So back from the free edge back so that that whole line just stays nice and straight. Okay, same thing on the other side. Again, I'm going to balance on my side here, putting pressure right to that free edge, and then taking that back a little bit farther. Okay, so you can taper these a little bit more if you want a little bit more of that extreme coffin. You can definitely do that. And just kind of clean up that free edge if you need to. Now, if we take a look from that sidewall view, from that lower arch, you can see I've still got a nice straight lower arch that's going to still come straight out from that natural nail. It's not curving down like those original tips that we've got. Okay, same thing on the other side. You can again turn that. And when I'm doing my lower arch, I still will balance with my fingers on the top here so that again, it's not putting pressure on that tip and pulling that upward. So again, you can just come in and straighten out those lower arches so that it's still going to be coming straight out from that natural nail. So again, that's going to just give you a little bit more of a tapered coffin shape if you like a little bit more taper to it. Now keep in mind, underneath, we still haven't filed out that C-curve. There still is a little bit of that C-curve in there so that we haven't taken out any of that structure. So don't worry, as you're doing your tapering in, it is still gonna have that really nice tight C-curve underneath. It is gonna have that good structure underneath. Okay, so what if we wanna do a stiletto, a nice long stiletto? Basically, we're gonna do the same thing that we did with the coffin shape, but we're gonna take even more off of those edges. So to do that, I am gonna use my toenail clipper. And again, you guys, I have a straight edge toenail clipper, and I love this for when I'm customizing my shape with my tips here, rather than a rounded toenail clipper. Okay, so in my mind, when I'm creating a stiletto, I always want to find where my center point is. And a lot of times you have just that little kind of a catch at the end from how the tips were manufactured. So that's usually a good indicator of your center point. So you got to make sure that you know where your center point is. Now, if you can't really see that little, maybe that little edge maybe got filed off, you can even cheat. Take a marker and just make sure that you know right where your center point is. So you may just put a little dot right in the center there. So this way, when we cut our nail, we're not going to cut lopsided. Okay, so I kind of use that as my guide. So I'm going to start just a little ways away from there. And we're going to clip that side. And then I'm just going to start to clip that back towards my sidewalls here. Okay, so you can see that I've started to get a little bit more of that stiletto shape on my side. And I usually will start a little bit at a time. So that way I don't over clip my edge and take off too much from that side. So if I have to go back again, I can go back again and clip off a little bit more. But it's better to start a little bit at a time. It's like my dad always used to say, well, he still does say, measure twice, cut once. All right, so we've got a little bit taken off of that side. Same thing on the other side. Again, using that center point as our guide. So that will come in and just start to clip off those edges. All right, so we've got that basically cut right to our center point. Nice little V shape here. I'm gonna just kind of touch that edge up just a little bit more. And then we can still take our file, just like I was doing before. Make sure that you're balancing on either side. We're gonna clean up those edges, coming nice and straight to that point. Again, still balancing on the sides. And then we will also, just like we did with our coffin shape, we're gonna turn that nail on the side. And we're going to clean up that lower arch again so that our tip is coming straight out from that natural nail. So straight out from that lower arch, right up to that natural nail. Same thing on the other side. Again, turn that over, coming straight out. You guys, with your lower arches, having them coming straight out from that natural nail is going to give them really good structure. Now, if you go back and look at our little beak nail looking here, having that curve like that isn't going to be the strongest structure. Having this nice straight edge, that's what's going to give you that really good, shaping, that good structure. And also, let me clean up that free edge just a hair. We're still going to have that same structure, that same nice tight C-curve all the way through until the point of that nail. So we still have curve right through there. We have that structure, we have that shaping. It's not a flat C-curve like with our original tips were. All right, so you guys, we've got our square, we've got our even more tapered coffin, we've got our stiletto. Now what happens if you want a little bit more of an almond shape? You're gonna basically do the same thing that you did with the stiletto, but you can just clip that down a little bit shorter and then round out that edge a little bit. But here we can come in and just kind of clip at almost a V shape right into that free edge so that little point comes off. Now, if you like this kind of a shape, you could just come underneath there, taper in those corners so you have more of that kind of a trendy little shape. Kind of that V at the end. Okay, so again, just a little bit of other customizing. Otherwise, you can come in and just kind of clip off those little corners right there. And then that's going to be where you start to get more of that almond shape. Okay, same thing, keeping that lower arch nice and straight. Same thing on my other side, keeping my lower arch straight. But that's just going to kind of round out those little corners, and then we can bring that into more of an almond shape. I'm just going to kind of file again at a little V shape to kind of taper in those edges just a little bit more. And then I'm going to kind of round out that free edge just a little bit to get that more almond shape. Or you can leave it a little bit more pointy if your clients like a little bit more pointy. But again, still making sure that my tip is coming straight out from those natural nails. Now, you guys, what I like to do, you can kind of see there's a little bit of kind of frayed edges underneath there. What I'll do is just really quickly with a 180 buffer, just kind of soften up those edges a little bit. Now, here's the thing though, if you are going to be using gel over these, whether you're using hard gel, fiber gel, if you're using a gel over the top of these, you want to make sure that you're not smoothing out that surface too much, because you want to make sure your gel is going to adhere, and gel is not going to adhere to a shiny surface. So I know Tracy talked about this in her original video about these tips, but make sure that if you are going to be doing a hard gel or even fiber gel over them, make sure you really go through, remove that shine from them. You can do this with acrylic, but it's not as necessary as with a gel. So you can also use that sanding band to go through to remove that shine. If it's a little faster, it's a little easier for you. Or if you need to do any blending, you can also use the sanding band to go through and blend that connection. So that area, that well of that tip, so that it blends into that natural nail. But again, for gel nails, again, make sure that you do remove that shine fully from the tip. All right, you guys, so hopefully me showing you some of these different ways of shaping your tips is going to help you out. So enjoy the new tips and hope you have fun with them.